Hello, everyone. My name is Coleman. This is Draven. And
Yellow.
Also, Falling Hurts, Booins. This is the Popcorner podcast. This will be episode 7 by the time it comes out. We're recording this before episode 6 only because in 2 days, Scream 6 comes out, and we've been doing a watch up until that point. So that will all be finished first, and this will be our first movie that we're covering after.
Yep.
Yeah, so we're going to be, we watched already, we're going to be talking about the movie Old by M. Night Shyamalan.
Yes, sir.
I always make fun of his name whenever I usually say it and just go with too many vowels. But that's me, I guess. Draven, what have you been working on? I guess it's like anything different, anything new?
Oh, for like content-wise?
Yeah, I mean, you got to think by then it's 2 weeks.
2 weeks.
A week later.
Yeah, so. By then, I mean, I'll be, as time as this video comes out, I'll be working on a Left 4 Dead 2 video, and it's kind of just basically talking about is Left 4 Dead 2 worth playing, like what made it so great and why people still play it, who are still on there to this day. Kind of just diving in as to why it did so well and why it's still doing so well versus its competitors like Card for Card or...
Is that a
Back 4 Blood?
Yeah,
is
that a Back 4 Blood joke?
Yeah.
Okay. My bad.
Just other zombie games that try to take the formula of Left 4 Dead and turn it into their own. Like World War Z was one, which that game was okay, but just none of it has the replayability of Left 4 Dead. So I'm tackling that, and yeah, it should be either released or it should be releasing soon once we get this video out.
So subscribe to Booins. Subscribe to this channel if you want a new podcast every Friday, as well as potentially reviews if I ever start making them again. And as you can see here, I bought Popcorners with the S at the end. Yes.
We're not sponsored.
Not sponsored. Just felt like it was one of those things that we live in perpetuity of one another, so kind of wanted to try it. I've never had any.
First time trying it, actually. I did it off screen right before we started here.
I bought it so we could both try it.
Well, I was hungry.
And I opened it in advance so it wasn't a crinkle for the mic. And he just walks over and takes one. Okay,
well, if it makes you feel better, it's pretty good.
It's good?
Yeah,
okay,
it's good.
Well, this isn't the original. This is the sweet and salty. So.
Well, I dig it. Sweet and salty is at least 8 out of 10 from me.
This is good. This is like my other popcorn that I like. I don't remember what it's called. It's like Chica Pop or something like that. It's a purple bag. You know what I'm talking about?
Mm-hmm.
It's like that.
I stock it all the time.
It's just like crack.
So originally today we were going to watch Uncharted. That was the movie we were apparently going to watch at one point. That didn't happen.
It'll happen at some point. It has to.
I mean,
I would like to cover all of like the modern video game adaptations at some point.
Yeah, we hitting Sonic?
Yeah, why not?
I love Sonic, so I'm down for that for sure.
Yeah, I'm down with Sonic. I mean, we have to try to get the original unedited version, though, of course.
Oh, yeah, the original look. Yeah.
So, I guess this will be the third time that I'm asking you this, technically. I'm speaking in advance for episode 7 here. But each episode, we have been doing like a warm-up question before we get into the movie, which, of course, once again, we're talking about Old. If you want to skip ahead to get to that part, that's whatever. But for right now, my question for you today is, less of a hypothetical, like for instance, last time I asked you, what video game would you like to see made into a movie?
Yeah.
This time around, it's more of just a, get to know you kind of question. What are your, what kind of songs you like? What are some of Draven's favorite songs?
Songs?
When you're down and out, what song, puts their hand on your shoulder and just...
Songs specific is very hard for me because I listen to so much things. Honestly, I listen to a lot of songs, but it's usually in one genre of music. And I listen to rock music.
Country rap?
No, God no. I'm a full rock person. I dabble a lot in 80s pop. So 80s pop, like Never Gonna Give You Up, Take On Me, Everyone Wants to Rule the World, that type of stuff hits different. Okay. But on top of just that side of things... 90% of the time, if I'm listening to actual like music and genre that's made for just music purposes, that's not game tracks, it's rock. Basically early 2000s. So for example, 3 Days Grace, Three Doors Down, Breaking Benjamin, Theory of a Dead Man, Linkin Park, I'm edgy. I'm edgy. I'm different. I'm different.
You know, Linkin Park is good. Have you heard the new song?
Yeah, Lost.
The Lost? Tori didn't like it.
Really?
Yeah, she goes, it doesn't sound like them. I said, yeah, it does. I said, it sounds like it's exactly off of the Meteora album. So,
Well, I mean, it was a song they made.
Right.
So it just wasn't released.
That's a good album, too. So,
What about you? What do you listen to?
what do I listen to?
I mean, you could do like what I did, like bands or like certain people
Okay,
versus
yeah.
songs, because I just went with that.
Okay, I like Pearl Jam.
Okay.
So there's some 90s rock. Yeah, it's 90s.
Yeah.
I like Post Malone.
Yeah, he's got some good stuff too.
I like Post Malone a lot.
You a rapper kind of guy?
Not really. Not really into
I'm
country
not.
rap. That's about it.
No, I don't. I mean, not to hate on anything or anyone, but I personally don't like rap, and I don't like country either. So country rap to me sounds like the worst combination.
You know, this is gonna sound basic, but I go through phases. I really like Marty Robbins.
Okay.
You know Marty Robbins?
Yeah.
Got big iron on his hip. But it started out that way, and it wasn't from Fallout New Vegas, which I feel like most people, the memes, that's what it was. But like I knew not the name of the song, apparently, but Big Iron was like my number 2 song by him. But then I'm blanking on all the names of the song. Listen to Marty Robbins. He's a cool guy. He's not going to benefit from it now, but it's some pretty good music. Marty Robbins and Post Malone. I like The Weeknd. The Weeknd's pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there's some good music there. But yeah, that's pretty much it for me. It was a pretty short warm up, but you know, just some little insight into the two of us. But I guess with that being said, Old, the 2021 film
What
by
a movie! What a movie!
M. Night Shyamalan. I had kind of teased him before we started that this movie had a tiny budget, all things considered. You know, from a bigger director like that, and definitely not a horror film, which I think some people think of with.
No, definitely not a horror film.
No. But I honestly, from the first trailer, that was the kind of vibe I got. But then I didn't watch anything about it. Didn't see. Honestly, I heard the movie flopped, but that was.
Did it?
No, it did. Well, not. I mean, I don't know how marketing budgets play into it.
Was it a movie that went out in theaters?
Yes.
Really?
Yeah. No, it had an $18 million budget. Where do you think that's a lot, or I mean, that's a lot of money.
Well, I'm
if you give me
thinking-
$18 million, I'm not working again.
That's definitely a smaller budget, but at the same time, I'm thinking like that Winnie the Pooh Blood and Honey movie that came out. It was under $100,000. So I'm thinking like that's small, and then you give me 18 million. I'm like, all right, that's not bad.
Yeah, don't get me wrong, but like I don't know. There's movies with
for sure. I mean, compared to like your
something million,
like your Marvel
budgets.
movies and stuff, like this is 100% like not even nothing.
I want to say with Avatar: Way of Water, they needed to be in like the top 5 movies of all time to even break even, which is over the billions.
Yeah.
So I mean, after marketing and everything, like that's insane.
Mm-hmm.
And but no, this movie had according to Wikipedia, as it says here with my Face ID, a $18 million budget with a $90.2 million box office. So
I mean,
you know, that's a good,
it did pretty decent.
that's a good turnaround, all things considered.
Mm-hmm.
Now, with that being said, what do you think of this movie?
I mean, obviously,
general thoughts.
Yeah, I'm gonna say like usually we do like
full spoilers,
yeah.
by the way. This isn't a new movie like with Scream 6. If you're somehow not catching this, there will be a 50%, first half of the episode, no spoilers.
Well, yeah, when it's like newer movies that are out in theaters and we go watch it and we come back, which I feel like we should do that a lot. We should go watch movies in theaters, come back, and just review them.
We're going to do Indy 5 that way.
I feel like when we do stuff like that, 100% do like no spoiler section. But with stuff like this that's been out for like at least a year and more, it's like, it's fine. So as far as the entire movie, it wasn't bad, but I didn't really like it too much either. I don't want to like get into detailed because that's what later's for.
Yeah, we'll get into.
I just think that the start off of it. He's known for directing some weird movies. Like going into his movies, you're already like, I'm not gonna know. You're like, I'm not with when he's a director and you see it like with the Cabin in the Woods. I haven't watched it yet. Want to Cabin in the Woods?
Yeah.
Knock at the Cabin.
Knock at the Cabin. Is it Knock at the Cabin Door or Knock at the Cabin? Doesn't matter.
Yeah,
I want to see it. Dave Bautista.
Yeah,
Love him.
But I say he directs that too, and like it's one of those things where like when his name is attached to it, like you just know you're gonna be like, what's going on? What is happening? What in the world? And this movie does not disappoint in that factor because boy, did I have absolutely zero clue on what anything was going on. Like everything that happened in this movie, I'm just sitting there like, why is this? What is why? What? I mean, I was putting pieces together here and there, but then didn't even turn out that was true. Because like the entire time I'm sitting here watching it, I'm like, okay, so if you go in the water, that's what does this.
That's what I thought.
That's not what it is.
It's just the island. Just the whole alcove.
Yeah. So in general, it was okay. I didn't enjoy it a whole lot, but I didn't think it was like the worst thing I've ever seen. What about you?
See, when I generalize it in broad strokes, it would almost sound like I really like this movie. Like I enjoy pretty much any movie that M. Night directs. I really like the basic premise of the movie. Mm-hmm. Like with The Visit, the two grandchildren go to visit their grandparents that they've never met, and it turns out that they are.
I was just gonna tune in and be like, The Visit by far much better than this movie.
Yes, yeah, no, definitely. I thought you were gonna like do a spoiler thing. I was like,
no. I was just wanted to tune in because you're talking about The Visit. So I'm like, so much better.
And I guess with that being said, I guess I probably shouldn't spoil all of his movies, but M. Night, he also did Signs, right?
I never watched that movie. So.
Signs is probably one of my favorites. I mean, I really enjoy it. He's in Signs because he also acts in the movie Signs. But like all of these movies, like they're seared into my memory. The Village is another one. Like one reason or another, they all are. He also did Split, right? Unbreakable. Yeah. Like these movies, like they kind of did a little connected thing there. They're all really cool premises, but this one is the same. I mean, an island or like a cove on the island that causes, time to work differently, aging people up. Mm. But also there's other weird side effects to what's going on as well. That's where it gets iffy for me, but that's like the nitty gritty of the movie that I didn't really understand as much.
Yeah, like I said, the aging thing was cool. I like the concept of that, but then there's just so many side factors where I'm just sitting there like, this doesn't make any sense. But I mean, also when we get to it later, the ending, like I was saying earlier when we weren't recording, I thought the ending was so rushed and it was just like, eh. But
I made a joke about how it aged out too quickly.
He's so funny, guys. Subscribe.
Consider it. But I guess with that, we start the movie with
them coming to, isn't it like right off the bat, like them
we follow
getting introduced to the paradise section?
Yeah, we follow a family of four. It is a younger son, a 6-year-old son, an 11-year-old daughter, and then two parents with some tension between them.
More than tension.
Well, at first it's like, like they're like, really work right now and all this and that. Mm. And the husband's name is Guy, and that really threw me off for about 5 minutes.
Why? Yeah, why?
I love it.
Is that his brother's name? Why? Yeah, Guy, and then why?
Girl. Anyway,
he had a brother, not a sister.
You're right, my bad.
Not canon.
Sequel.
Stop.
But they, no, it was a sister. Remember, they call the aunt at the end.
You're right, mother. but they never clarified if it was the mom or dad.
Chances are leaning in my favor.
Whatever.
Yep. So anyway, with that being said, we follow the family onto this resort. We're not really sure what it is at first, but we learn quickly that the family is going on vacation because the parents wanted to give the children one last good memory of everyone together, basically before they enacted their divorce.
Yeah.
And there's kind of a little bit of like idea that there may be something wrong with the mom. She might be sick.
Yeah, might be sick. Yeah, it was like medical. You never find, I mean, you do, but like at this moment, you're like, okay, we don't know what it is. Right. It's kind of like tease that, hey, there's something wrong with me.
Yeah, she's like, hey, we were already planning to split up before we found out about this. Mm-hmm. No reason to stop now. And otherwise, while we're at the resort, we, Idlib,
Yeah, that's
Idlib is a young child that befriends the 6-year-old boy
Trent.
Trent.
Yeah,
Yes,
Trent's the boy's name.
Trent, and Maddox is the sister.
And they're obviously just going around hanging out, being friends.
Yep.
And then they have this weird system where like he has like all these symbols, and then like Trent tries to figure out and
They're
decode it.
deciphering. Yep.
Yeah. So, which that comes back into play later. Which I did like that. I did like how that comes back later.
I didn't mind that.
At this moment, it's just them saying stupid messages. Like I think the one was like, "Yo, let's go eat ice cream and like see how much." And eating an ice cream eating contest. That's what I'm trying to say. That's one of the ones that it shows him like decipher. So
Right, and
you also have the two with their daughter because we see them too before we get
yes,
to the
the doctor. Are you talking about the doctor and his much younger wife,
mm-hmm.
and then their daughter. And the wife is talking about how the little girl needs to have good posture because it's unattractive, and all this and that. Really weird. You're right. My bad. And they're talking about all this and that. And then in the middle of the same dinner where we're meeting all of these characters and there's interactions, this other lady, she begins to have a seizure. She's epileptic. And, of course, the nurse guy she's married to, or whatever.
Yeah, I believe so.
Married to a nurse, and, he's, pretty calm about it, all things considered. And then the old doctor guy, he walks up to her, and, he's trying to assert his dominance in that situation. He's pretty much a dick. Doesn't even remember the guy's name. And that kind of was the first sense of tension we got in the movie. Mm-hmm. The only other thing was the owner of the resort, or the host or whatever, his son is Idlib, or child.
Yeah, he's
some
somewhat
kind of ward to him.
He's somewhat connected to him because he looks after him at least,
right?
And always tells him not to play with the kids that are going to be going onto the island.
Yes, which leads to where the original family we followed in, they want to have kind of a nice, quiet, memorable experience where they can all do something together.
Yeah, because the owner comes down and was like, "Yo, you guys look like you're a special kind of family.
Yep.
He's like, we can take you to this like island, and yeah, it's beautiful."
And I have to say, I'll stop here and I'll ask you your opinion. Up until this point of the movie, where we're getting introduced to so many new characters, and even the kids, they go around and they talk to like the police officer and his
what
dancer.
do you do? He's like, what do you do? He's like, I'm a police officer. He's like, what do you do? She's like, I'm a dancer. Like, what do you do? I forget what the other one was. They asked 3 people though.
Yeah, I don't even remember for the last one. But and these characters we don't see again until damn near the very end of the movie. Mm-hmm. But at this point in time, it's like analysis paralysis of all these characters and personalities we have to remember. Yep. And the movie was pretty overwhelming at first.
I was going to say, I personally, like, if you were going to, I don't know if this is what you were going to ask me, but I personally thought there was just too much thrown at us in a short period of time. I was just like, there's too many characters. I was like, I don't remember any of their names because it's going too fast. Too many side plot lines going on at the same time.
Right.
I'm like, I mean, later on, it's not as bad. But at first, I'm like,
that's what I was going to lead into was with the introduction of this secret spot on the island, the secret beach, where the main family is sent to, driven by the guy who is actually the director of the movie, because he always puts himself in his movies. I think it's kind of funny. Yeah, I love fun. That. That's I love fun. That. I talked about that with Scream, too, with the first movie.
Yeah, Wes Craven.
Yep. But I enjoyed that. First off, they aren't, of course, the only people that are invited there. There's also the older guy with his younger wife, his daughter, and then also his mom is with them. And at first, that's it, correct?
Yeah.
And then the other,
the two show up later.
Yes.
Because I'm pretty sure it's like before they show up too. By the way, this is the part where we see
mid-size sedan.
We see a car parked out on the side, and then we see like a girl like basically just go skinny dipping. And then it kind of just cuts from there. That's literally it. It's just like her just being like, "Yep, going in," and then
she gets in the water.
You see the
we learned.
I can't even say it, dude. It's so stupid.
We learned the guy's name is Midsize Sedan, and I have to say that is probably the most creative stroke of genius I have ever seen in a film. And Well, that's it. At first, it's a nighttime scene, and she goes into the water.
Yeah.
Of course, we get there the next day with
Our crew here.
with our actual crew of people. The 8 people show up on the beach, but the driver turns around and he says, "Hey, I'll be back at 5 p.m. When you guys want to leave, but I can't stay here. I have other stuff to do." Mm-hmm. And that's pretty much it. And this is where I thought the movie got pretty enjoyable because it narrows the scope. There's not new characters being constantly introduced. We actually, well, I guess that's getting a little bit ahead of myself, but pretty much all the characters we've met are most of the characters we've met at this point.
Yeah.
And there's not really any new major players.
I still think it gets a little confusing still because at the point, not even with like things that happen, but like cutting a little forward here, one of the things is like all these people have problems. Like there's like every single person that's being brought to this island here has a problem of some sort, whether it be like mental, physical, or what have you.
Well, most, and that's what confuses me because the kids.
Yeah, the kids don't.
The kids don't.
Yeah.
I mean,
that's weird, right? Yeah, I never actually thought about that because all the whole purpose is to like do that, but then the kids don't have it.
I mean, the only thing I can think of with the kids is just to see how life stages.
Maybe for hereditary stuff, so maybe they get older and you can see. Well, either way, like they have. I don't even know where I was wrapping to my point here. I was just saying that
it still gets confusing.
Yeah, it still gets confusing because the way they do it is like it's like back to back to back to back to back to back. Like, oh, this person's this problem, this person's this problem, this person's this problem, this person's this problem. Like they're just like bam, 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 all at once, and I'm just like, who's what? Who's who? Calm down. I think it gets a little confusing, but I mean, it's not like to the point where I'm like, oh god, it was so bad, I have no idea what's going on. Like I understand it later on. It's just as things start in the beginning with that, I'm like, whoa.
I don't. Well, okay. So we get to the beach with the families. And, of course, at first it's a great time, right? The kids are going around. They're going into the water. Of course, we're thinking this is the beach where it's happening. They're going to get old. They're going to come out of the water. They're going to be old. That's what we thought was going to happen. Or what I thought, at least.
That's what I thought. Well, like I said, before this point, we haven't seen any, like, dead bodies or anything happen at this point.
Yes.
It's just with the title old and, like, they went into the water. The girl before went into the water and we never seen her again. I'm just like, okay, the water is what it is.
Right.
And then at this point, this is where like they're all kind of just chilling, having the time of their lives, swimming, and a lot of the adults are kind of just vibing in the sand.
Right.
And then isn't this where like, because they're like playing like hide and seek and like all that type of stuff. And then the one kid,
the camera shot, I think it was pretty masterful. I have to say this. I have to defend this. A lot of the one-shot camera shots is it's following the people around on the beach from one to the next. Even a scene where it's a shaky camera, which is kind of disorienting, didn't really like that. But the fact that it was following these kids on the beach, they were playing freeze tag, and you don't know what they're doing. And this is skipping ahead just a tiny bit. But as they're going around, and it stops on the kid, but then it just kind of keeps them out of focus as it's following the others that are running.
Yeah.
That's great.
I mean,
the tension is there.
Yeah.
If you go into this movie with the expectation that shit's going to go wrong on this beach, the tension was definitely there.
And there's, like I said, the shots, some of those, like, like what you were saying with the freeze tag section, like, there are some good shots in here, don't get me wrong. I just feel like they overuse a lot of those shots, and I'm just sitting there
I get that.
I'm like, we've done this like 50 times already, let's not do that again. But there are certain moments where it does, like, okay, what's going on here? Because, like, the freeze tag section, dude, I had no idea what they were doing. They were just, like, it made it so ominous. And, like, the way, like when it first started on the girl, and I was like, ominous as heck, just slowly turning and, like, out of focus. And I'm like, what is happening here? And then I'm like, okay, they're playing a freeze tag. Why it's being shot like this, I don't know. But it was cool to shoot things and misdirect.
Yeah, I mean, I like that. That was probably, weirdly enough, one of the more memorable parts of the early part of the movie.
Well, the thing that starts the ball rolling is they're playing hide and seek, and I'm pretty sure Trent was the one that was hiding like in the water section, like trying to hide behind like the little rock area there.
Right. And the first thing he notices that there's no fish in the shallows.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he's like, that's weird. And that'll come back into effect later.
And then this is when the body's like, whoop, just slowly coming in. You see it like behind him coming in, and then eventually like taps him and he freaks out.
Yep. I fully thought that was going to be Crystal, by the way.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I definitely was just like, it's just another fake out. We just had one. That's what it's going to be. But, yeah.
I don't know. Up to this point, I was still kind of just like, I don't know. I was still on the fence, and even after watching it all, I'm still, I don't know. There's something about it that didn't click with me. But at the same time, at this point is when the ball starts rolling with our characters, and this is when stuff actually starts getting whack. Absolutely whack.
The body of the girl that went swimming into the water the night before is revealed, pulled up. Of course, mid-sized sedan, who I guess we didn't really mention, but he was sitting off to the side. They saw him. The kids recognized him as a rapper, I guess, or something, and they were like wanting to go see him.
Yeah, the 11-year-old girl did.
Yeah, and the dad was like, no, leave him alone. He's here for his vacation too. And that was that up until, of course, the body of the girl is discovered. And that's when, I want to say he does walk over because he didn't know what had happened to her, but everyone pretty much instantly kind of suspects him because he's sitting here, he's got a bloody nose, and he looks pretty out of it, all things considered. So some people instantly think that she had fought back against him. Others are just like, we'll figure out what's going on. The father, Guy, he seems a little more reasonable. He's just like, hey, we'll get this figured out. We just have to get the authorities.
Yeah.
And then there is the doctor, the older guy who was kind of a dick. And, he's a little more hostile. He's thinking like, hey, we know this guy did it. We have to get the cops here now. Nobody let him out of your sight kind of thing. And that's about the time that the seizure lady and her nurse husband show up.
Yep. Yeah. By the way, I mean, it hasn't been stated at all even near this point, but man's a swimmer. He was on the swim team. Don't forget. Swim team equals being able to swim in the ocean. That's all I'm saying.
I mean, basically the same thing.
I also want to point out, like, the actors themselves aren't bad. I just feel like the script, the way it was written, some of the lines are so weird.
Definitely a movie that comes off more cheesy than it should be.
Yeah, like, I don't think it's the actor's fault by any means. I just think it's just the way they were written. And I'm just sitting here listening to some of their lines. I'm like,
it's like when you go
the heck you just say to me?
The amount of cheese is like if you go to Olive Garden and then they do the thing where they're like, all right, tell me when to stop.
And you just don't
But
stop.
the girl's deaf and then she doesn't hear it. So she just keeps going.
The mom?
Like, huh?
The mom's doing it? The mom works at Olive Garden?
Oh, you're right. My bad. Yep.
Yo, it's kind of fire. Didn't know. Well, she used to.
Right. So.
Well, let's start going with, like, the things that start happening here. Like, obviously, they're all, like, in a panic and frenzy of, who killed this girl? Or what's going on? Yeah, the authorities. But, like, at this section, what did you think? Like, did you think that, like, maybe Sedan over here had a somewhat sort of connection? You think this car had any relevance to killing this girl? Or were you like, okay, it's one of these movies. It's wacko. It's not him.
Yeah, I mean, I think the idea was just that it was meant to create tension within the group.
Yeah, not the audience.
That was pretty clear, yeah.
I was just curious. I mean, I'm the same way. I was just curious on what you were thinking at that moment.
Right.
So, at this point...
That's when the mom starts having heart issues, right? Because that's why the doctor gets called away.
I keep forgetting that the old lady...
she was in that movie for a little bit, wasn't she?
She had a dog for like 2 seconds.
Yeah, the dog didn't make it much longer.
Well, she starts having heart problems because she's just like, oh man, I'm not feeling too good or whatever. Right. And like, she just ends up having a heart attack.
Yeah, borderline off screen.
Yeah, same with the dog.
Yeah, the dog, they're just like, the dog died.
They never showed it.
But that's a little bit later even. Like, that's not even like right when the mom does.
But, so like when the mom dies though, I remember because like then they were like, obviously at this point they don't know something's going on. They were just they thinking that like she couldn't handle seeing the dead body. Like she was just freaked out so much and she just had a heart attack, and makes sense. Mm-hmm. So that's what they were pinning it on. They still think it's like Sedan over here. Like most of them, or the other ones are just like, we have no idea what's going on. It was like split half and half.
Yep.
Mostly the doctor was the one who was just like, it's you.
Mm-hmm.
Which he was the douche. No one really, just Mr. Movie over here. Dude, he's so stupid. What even movie did he even say?
Did he ever say it?
He was saying like,
Marlon Brando and someone.
Yeah, he's just like, you ever see the movie with Marlon? And
you know movies?
Like, dude, what? Like, and made no sense. I don't even think we ever figured out what was his problem.
It would be funny if the movie he's referencing doesn't even exist.
I hope not.
That would be so, like, it's a look-alike. Two actors that look alike. He's saying the wrong one. But it's around this point in time when everyone's focused on the mother or the grandmother or whatever you want to call her.
Yeah.
That mid-sized sedan, he wants to bolt. He tries to go. He tries to leave through the same cave entrance that everyone came in with.
And doesn't the doctor follow?
The doctor, also follows because he's basically like, my mom, she's having heart issues, but it's just, she's overwhelmed. So he runs after her and or after him, and they both black out together. And I think maybe one had tried before this. I'm not even remembering.
I don't think so. I think these are the two that first try to do this. And what did you think about that? Like when they just randomly blacked out, woke up back on the sand. Like, what was your initial thoughts?
See, at first I wasn't sure where it was going, but it quickly became.
I mean, it happens very frequently.
Yeah, it starts happening a lot, but you realize that there's something keeping them there. At first, I wasn't sure if they had ran into someone or something that had done it to them. Yeah. Like there was someone in the cave, and I was like, oh, that would be creepy as shit. But no, it's just something keeping them there. So it's like a natural or unnatural, I guess more unnatural force keeping them there.
Who knows? You'll never know. Doesn't get explained, so.
Definitely not completely. And I don't know. It's interesting. I mean, I wish it would show them bringing them back. Like it would have showed them dragging them back or whatever, because it just showed them waking up there. I was like, how did they get there? It was a weird thing.
Yeah, the transitions weren't very good because they would you'd see them walk in there and then just out of nowhere it immediately snap to them just on their ground waking up. You're like, what?
Well, because it does it every time, but then when it comes to and it's almost like, oh wow, they just got poofed right back there or something, but obviously not. But then whenever someone goes swimming, when they black out, they just drown.
Yeah.
But let's see. So those characters,
I do like that. That's one thing I do like about it.
What's that?
Is that the blackout thing? I didn't really care for it for them in the beginning, but they do use it to a point with the drowning. Like I do like how, which at the same time too, this is later, it doesn't really matter though, I guess. But the one person who does end up drowning because of hitting the edge and then end up passing out and whatever,
right? That
person ends up coming back. And they were like, oh man, he's dead. Did you initially think oh, he passed out, or did you think something else happened where he got because I think at this point we were both still kind of maybe he just turned old. We were thinking maybe he turned old and died and turned, because you remember you said he's gonna leave and just turn into bones, because you initially thought he was just gonna swim out there and then just be like bones.
Are you talking about swimmer guy?
Mm-hmm. Because he's the one that ends up dying by the drowning passing.
Right.
But I remember you saying that watch him just go out there and just turn into.
Yes, yeah. So it was at this point we still weren't sure if the water was what was doing it, if they were the people that had contact with the water. But
the water had us in the first half.
Yeah, not gonna lie. But I didn't know what to expect. All things considered, but the only kind of indicator of otherwise was the girl. And it wasn't until she was back on the beach that she aged rapidly. The girl that drowned.
Yeah, well, you don't even see her because I remember when we first seen the girl, because obviously you see a little 5-second scene of her basically just going skinny dipping, and then we just come to her being dead in the water, and they end up putting her on the beach, and they put a towel over her or whatever, and then Sedan drives over, and he somehow uses his tires to take off the...
Stop.
I'm going to keep doing it. It's such a stupid name. He uses his tires to take the thing off. And then he tells everyone that's on the beach, the gang, basically, to come over and check this out. And, we were thinking, oh, she's going to be old now. But then it was literally just bones.
Yeah.
That's all it was. So.
And if I remember correctly, this is also when the doctor, he's starting to slowly kind of... he's getting there. He's already he's asked the Asian, the other nurse who was Asian, by the way, if he knew him already, and he's also threatened the mid-sized sedan.
Gonna slash his tires.
He knows that he will steal something from him, and pretty much getting into borderline racist territory. Racist stereotypes.
Sure. I was thinking,
almost like he doesn't necessarily look senile yet, but he's definitely
He's getting
acting
there.
that way.
He's the one character that stood out like right from the get go. That this man's
Yeah,
crazy.
like and you later find out that he's schizophrenic, and that was his reason for being there. And it's when everyone is looking at the now completely decayed and rotted, just basically bones of the girl that drowned, that he walks up in mid-sized sedan, as you said, he slashed the tires, cut him right across the face.
Yep.
And of course, big deal. Everyone's like, what the hell? Why did you do that?
And they have it to where it's like shot to where like he's covering.
Yeah,
like
he's
this.
he's
like,
covering it.
oh man! And then not the doctor, but the
nurse.
The nurse, yeah. He was like,
He says, "Let me see it."
Let me see. And then like he ends up like taking it like this.
And then it's gone.
gone.
Well,
Well, you
it's
see the
healed.
scar.
It's a scar.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then they're obviously like, "What the heck?" And he's like, "What? What are these faces you guys are making?" He's like, "I just been getting slashed."
Right.
And then yeah,
Which is like,
I listen. Aging part and stuff like that, I guess I understand, but like this stuff, it doesn't make sense. Like the healing factor, I mean, I guess it comes in with like aging because when you get hurt, I guess it makes sense.
well, there was a factor they gave. It was like the lady with the seizures. She made it 8 hours on the island before she had a seizure.
You find out that that's because she took whatever they gave her, though,
right
before they go.
But they said at the end, which we'll get into the end later, but they said that translates to 16. 8 and some odd hours translates out to 16 and some odd years.
Mm-hmm.
So that's pretty much for every hour you've got 2 years.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah, basically.
So all things considered, it was only like however, it was a few minute conversation, we'll say at most, actually, if outside, a few seconds, whatever. But you give that a couple weeks and that's going to heal up.
Yeah.
Maybe not exactly to a scar like that. That was probably a little dramatized. But yeah, I don't know. I guess the healing stuff kind of makes sense. The only scene where I think it does contradict a lot was the scene you had an issue with Crystal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It literally made no sense.
Yeah.
Because like with his, it was like instant, just like that.
Right.
So like if with her, when something happens, like why would it just not? We'll get to it later. There's a few scenes that I'm thinking in my head right now that I'm like literally makes no sense. Mm-hmm. But we'll keep going. This is when like the son, the daughters, like they start aging a bit. It's not like drastic. Have they not? Isn't that what's next? Aren't they the ones?
Is it tumor or that?
Oh, tumor's later.
Is it?
Yeah,
Okay.
the actual that's later.
Okay.
Because they definitely age up a bit.
That's right, because the mom kept the kids back from the body and everything. Right.
Yeah, I'm going to say the kids end up aging, which they all played in the water, so this is where we're still like, okay, the water. And also, like, the other characters didn't really age.
I guess it makes sense. You don't change. I mean, the kids have to go through puberty and stuff like that. The kids change visibly a lot more. I mean, I guess that makes sense.
I don't know. I just feel like there's certain characters that definitely, like...
I mean, the parents aged towards the end.
A little bit.
But it wasn't really visible till the end.
I don't know. The biggest one for me was, like, not seeing Crystal age at all, because Crystal was super, super young. So, like, not seeing her age, because she lived basically through the entire end, to the end of the island part, and, like, she never aged. So I was just like, okay. I don't know. I feel like there's a little bit of contradiction there, but either or, the kids are the main ones that are growing up that we're focusing on here,
right?
For as far as getting older, and the two girls and the son, they all age up to like, I don't even remember,
like 5 years, I would say, because they were guessing that the son was 10, 11 years old, but he was actually 6, and of course the daughter was older, and then the other girl, the Crystal's daughter, was the same age roughly
as Trent. Yeah,
as Trent. Yes, and the first person to notice is the mom, right? No. They're talking to I don't remember their name.
They're talking to Nurse and
Carmichael, right? The Carmichaels, is that their name?
I don't know.
I think their last name is the Carmichaels. Well, anyway, the nurse and the seizure lady.
Yeah, they were asking like their ages. Yeah,
yep.
And they were just like, "Yo, you're like, what's your age?" And then he's like 6, and they're like, "Nah, you're probably like 11, 12, and he's like, no, I'm 6. He's like, you playing a joke on me, brother?
Right.
And then like they were doing that bit where they kept trying to guess their age, and they're like, we're just gonna leave it. Like they're just messing with us.
They've had
dude.
a lot of trauma today. You know, we're not going to question it. And that's when the mom comes up and she's like, "Hey, have you seen my kids?"
Yeah, she doesn't even recognize them. She's like, have
she
you seen my kids?
Doesn't
And
even
they're just like,
picture it.
Mom, that's, what are you talking
it's us.
about?
It's us right here. And that to me, what do you think about like this? So like this movie has very clear plot points that it wants to hit. Like, hey, we need to make these people like start to notice these kids' age, you know, in a, I don't want to say realistic way is the best way to say it, but like in a natural-ish way, like something that would be, well, I guess realistic.
Yeah. Like what the reactions would be.
And like the conversation that it sprouts it out, like, because these people don't know them. They don't know how old they are to begin with.
Yeah, the only people would know is their parents.
Right.
Yeah.
And how do you think the movie handled that then?
I mean, it handled basically just like it does with everything else. It's pure chaos.
I mean,
So
I just thought it had such delicate care to that.
Yeah,
where the rest
I think
of the movie was like a shotgun blast.
100%. I think the aging of like all the children and stuff was one thing they did do right. I feel like that was like the main focus here was the aging of the kids and like having them get older, and they hit that pretty spot on. And I feel like I like we were just talking about it, but I really love that like, the mom didn't immediately like what happened. Like they were actually being like, "Where's my kids? Where's my kids?" They're like, "Mom, what are you doing right here? What's up?" So I really like that. And then obviously, like you said, like a lot of them don't even know each other, so they don't know. They're just like, okay, it's just another person, whatever. So I feel like they handled that very well. And obviously, as they, see this and then the mom and dad start freaking out a little bit, then everyone like collectively just goes, oh, that's not right. And then they are realizing something's up. Because like at this point, they were still just kind of like, yo, girl dead, Sedan probably did it, or whoever did it. Yep. And then this point, when they age up, that's when they're like, what's going on? So I feel like all that build up right there with the kids growing up was very well done. That is one of the few things I will give very good positive about is that. Because even later, they age up again. Even later, again, after that, they age up a little bit more.
Do you think the actors, like... Do you think there was a good through line with the actors?
Yeah.
Like visually speaking, like the child actors?
That's 100%, yeah. I thought that, like, all of, like... Because, like, the Trent and... Maddox, yeah. They're the ones that go through the most with, like, different actors playing them. And I think... I think it hit pretty spot on. There wasn't, like, a moment where I'm like... Okay, like when I saw Maddox and Trent's, like, second... Like, when they first go to a bigger age, and it shows them on screen, like, we knew right then and there that's who they were. Like I think the actors that played their older selves were great. My only problem with it was when they first aged up for the first time. They took so much time to
reveal it.
Yeah, I'm like, we know that they're older. Like, come on. Like it was like a solid 3 minutes of like the camera like basically.
It definitely felt like 3 minutes, if nothing else.
Yeah, like it was just like on their like backs lower, and like they wouldn't show their head or anything. We're like, dude, we know they're older. Like, come on.
Right.
That was my only negative with that was the reveal of that. Is like, it took way too long, in my opinion. Kind of cut the tension because it took too long. I was just like, all right.
I get that. But then, try not to skip ahead in events too much. I feel like, I don't know, this movie's easy to, like, it feels like a quick movie.
Yeah,
all things considered.
It wasn't.
So it's easy to go through, like, I don't know, like, part of me wants to, talk about these grand... plot points of these movie, but like there's nothing grand. Like it's these little moments.
Yeah, there's not like an overarching like huge plot point to the film. I mean, there is like a little tiny thing, but it's nothing that like we've been doing the Scream movies, and I feel
where's the lesson?
Yeah, like I feel like when we watch the Scream movies, like there's like the meta commentaries inside the movies on top of the plot it's trying to tell us. We have the killers and their motives as to why they're doing things. Like we have all these things to look for, and then this one we're just kind of watching the entire time going, what is going on? Right. And then at the end you're like, okay, we get why like the people are sending people down there and what they're doing it for. But as far as like why the events are happening and stuff, you have absolutely no idea. They don't even like remotely say anything about it other than...
Well, there's the end stuff, which I think we will get to pretty quickly.
Yeah. I'm just saying general, like...
I guess, I don't know. There is one thinking about it, there is one little bit of message that
You might have caught one that I didn't.
okay, with the parents. So the whole movie they're fighting about, well, I mean, they just aren't meant to be together, but you find out that the mother had cheated on the father,
Yeah.
and, he knew about it. She didn't know if he knew.
He just didn't bring it up.
Yes, he didn't bring it up, and they were already planning the divorce anyway. And how do I want to say this? Pretty much, to kind of wrap up our talking about the parents, the mom has a tumor, of course, with the time, dilation or whatever you want to call it.
It's just like a bowling ball, dude.
It grows. It goes to the size of like a melon or something, they say.
Too, with this character, like we already discussed, like how when you like cut, it like immediately just snaps your heel.
Heals.
So like they like the doctor, the douchebag doctor, he like cuts and then he goes to like take it out, but it immediately heals.
Right.
So then they all collectively like have to like pry it open and keep it open as it tries to close on them doing that.
Right.
And they end up getting it out, but it's like a freaking bowling ball, dude.
I know.
Somehow she lives.
Disgusting scene, and something that wouldn't have worked anywhere but on the island.
Oh yeah, God yeah.
Which makes you wonder, like if the unnatural healing is what more than likely kept her alive through this, and like was able to make her heal so quickly, then realistic, like if you slow the time down,
She would have
that
been
just doesn't work like that. I mean,
she would have been like, as soon as you took that out, she just would have been dead, dropped dead,
Yes.
right then and there. Yeah, I agree.
So
I think if it was anywhere other than the island, she would have been gone. Which I mean, didn't really help her anyway. But.
Yeah, I mean, but anyway, as I was saying with the message, so that happens, and they cure her of that or whatever, they rid her of that, and at the end, it gets to the point where the father guy, he doesn't really remember what they were fighting about. I mean,
Doesn't he get like dementia?
It's kind of implied that he's not all there anymore, but throughout the course of this movie, it kind of slowly pushes them together, but not in any meaningful way until the end where he's like, I don't even know what we were fighting about or why we wanted to leave here, but I'm with you and that's all that matters. And I'm not saying it's like, time heals all wounds kind of thing, but it definitely was more of like a, anything can heal with time.
Yeah.
As like a nice way of saying things. And I definitely thought that did a pretty good job, but any other thing does fall flat.
I do think that was done very well, but I also think that was like one of the small side points.
I do.
And,
No,
like,
yeah, 100% agree. It wasn't the major.
Yeah. And let's just get right into the weird stuff, to be honest, because I'm just
Are we talking about the kids?
Oh my God, dude. Okay, so
When they're cutting out the tumor, they tell the kids to go and play.
yeah, they sure do. They sure do play, huh? No, well, like we were talking about up there, like in like mindset, they're like 6 years old,
Right.
so they go and they play, and then the kids come back, or at least the Crystal's daughter, she comes back.
Yeah, I don't remember her name.
I don't either, but pregnant, just out of nowhere, pregnant,
5 months pregnant.
It's like.
It's been 5 minutes.
What? And they're just like, what happened? What was going on over there? And they were just like, we were just playing. I'm like, what?
You're just playing.
What do you mean?
I slipped.
I don't understand. They're, like I said, they're like 6-year-old in the brain.
In the brain,
And
right.
so, like, how do they even know what that is? How did they do that?
Yeah,
To me, it makes no sense. But, yeah, they have that. And then...
That's a weird thought. I mean, like, they're mentally younger than their body is, but their bodies... This sounds weird to talk about, and I apologize. But, like, that is a weird conundrum to tackle, all things considered.
Your hormones say do this.
Yeah, I mean,
like,
that is
oh.
that is weird. Like, I definitely think that's a weird... I mean, I think it's an interesting plot point, all things considered.
It doesn't go anywhere.
Yeah, it doesn't. No.
I feel like it was just there
children...
for shock factor at that point, because like she's pregnant, and then literally soon after they obviously were like, well, obviously the time's going by super quick, so then they end up having the kid, and then like it cuts away to like the parents, and like they're like, oh, what the heck, what do we do, what's going on?
Yeah, because the Crystal, the expecting grandmother.
Yeah.
She runs away. And, she tries to leave, and they bring her back unconscious.
Yeah. And with all this happening, and like I said, like after the baby's born, it goes to do that, and then it comes back.
They
and
wake her up, and she's starting to walk back.
The nurse's wife or whatever, she's like holding the baby and is like, she died immediately.
Yeah, the crying stop, like as the camera's panning back, as they're, bringing Crystal back up to speed, she's kind of waking back up. They're walking her back, kind of calming her down, and the crying is going on, but then it stops, and then the camera keeps panning over, and we get to see her holding the, the swaddle, and it's a scene, but really it doesn't rest on, it doesn't give the scene a chance to be like a sad scene or anything like that. I guess if you think about it, it's sad, but it's not.
There's no connection. We don't have a connection to the daughter who has the kid or the kid itself. We literally have no connection with it because it's just at an instant, and then after that, it's completely forgotten, never brought up again.
The most you get out of any of these child section scenes is like Trent when it's funny when the camera pans over, he's like, "We're gonna get married, and we're not gonna get divorced."
Yeah,
and that was actually a really funny scene because it's just like,
we never talked about it, but do you remember when the kids, like before they grew up, they were playing on the island with like the
toys,
the robot, and then the Barbie doll.
They're
and
speaking like their parents.
Yeah, right in front of them, and they're kind of just like, well.
Yep.
Great scene. I love that. But back to where we were.
Yeah.
I think before this, I think we missed it, but Savannah, I think is dead.
I thought it was it in the night? I thought it was in the night that he got killed.
Yeah, I think it was the night,
so,
because
we're coming up on the night. Don't get me wrong.
Because you still have the doctor being wacko, and he's got like a shiv, he's got like a knife.
Yeah,
and he's still being crazy and accusing good old Carr over here. He's just like, you killed, you're doing all this. He's like, I know you are. And then like he goes ham. He just goes, he just straight up starts stab. Do you even see that? Like I'm pretty sure like
you do.
I don't remember. Okay, but that's also a thing I don't understand is like they're supposed to heal instantly. So how did he die?
I suppose if you stab the heart, you're still gonna die.
I guess I don't know. I just. He was stabbed all over the place, and then I'm just like, wouldn't it just heal immediately? Right. But if you stab him in the heart, maybe that's why he died. Because he got stabbed everywhere.
Yeah.
But he dies, so no more good old vehicle to drive out on. So
I know. That's sad.
Yeah.
And then he gets his knife confiscated from him, finally. Guy and whatever the nurse's name is, they both kind of corner him. And he's sitting down, but they come up, they take the knife. And that's pretty much it for him until kind of the final bit on the island or on the cove there.
Oh man, at this point you have Crystal, I think, pretty much freaking out and just kind of like singling out herself elsewhere, not wanting to be by anyone. And this is when she like kind of notes, like when she's walking away, that she's like, I don't have my like calcium pills or something or whatever it was.
Yeah.
Which you're like, what the heck does that mean? But you never see her again for a while, so she's off like in a corner just doing whatever she's doing.
And this is about the same time that the nurse goes to swim.
Yeah. He's like, I took swim school classes. He's like,
he thinks he can go out and around and find a different beach to land on and, swim out of the water instead of going through the caves where they keep passing out.
Yeah.
And that's all we see for that for a bit until Maddox, the daughter, later on, she goes into the water. I don't know where the timeline comes out of this, so I'm just going to explain.
It's fine.
She goes out into the water. We keep thinking, the waves keep splashing and kind of covering her face. We keep thinking that we're going to see her age up.
We're still thinking about the water, dude.
Yeah, and she gets hit with a dead body, and that's him.
Mm-hmm.
And so
that was a good fake out.
Yeah, no, I like that one a lot. And I think that's why the setup of the cinematic setup of the long reveal of the age up for the kids.
Yeah.
The only thing I think that does well is it had the tension of that scene where we're expecting a new age up for these kids, and it just being a fake out with the dead body. I think it was a good payoff, but it was a bad setup.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Well, at this point, too, I think like once the dude's back and he's just deceased from the water again.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure this is when his wife has a seizure.
Yeah, pretty much same thing. She thinks she has the same idea, and then
Well, this
she
is
has a seizure.
yeah, and then she actually dies, and then she dies from the seizure, and then we also have
The daughter wants to
Yeah.
climb.
Yeah, this is Crystal's daughter.
A few hours after she gave birth,
Yeah,
naturally.
and then she's like, "We gotta get out of here." She's like, "I gotta try." So she tries to climb all the way up top to the mountain and get the heck out.
Yep.
So that was the plan, and they try to talk her down. Everyone tries to tell her like, "No, don't do it. You know, it's dangerous." And
Right.
she makes it up pretty far.
She makes it up a
and
good bit, and then it still happens.
passes out, and then you just see her fall. You don't even see her actually hit the ground because right when she gets ready to hit the ground, it just cuts to the ocean.
Yes, and unfortunately, I think the scene where they look up there and it shows her like passing out, and you can tell it's a CG, screen.
Yeah.
I feel like that's one of the very few CG screens in the movie, and it's probably the worst looking shot in the movie. It looks bad, and it just really took me out of the moment, all things considered. And so, yeah, with that being said, all those characters kind of biting the dust. We're left with Crystal roaming the beach, who doesn't know her daughter's dead.
Yeah,
We've got
she's looking for her though.
Right, yes. We've got the dad,
Just sitting in his
doctor.
corner.
He's sitting in the corner. I don't think he even cares what's going on.
He's just
At
talking
that-
about movies.
Yeah, he's talking about movies. He's off the deep end. He's mentally gone. The mom Crystal seems mentally gone, but she's got other stuff going on.
And then I think at this point, like Guy, he's just kind of. This is kind of like where he starts becoming blind.
Yeah,
So-
he's starting to lose his vision.
And then the,
And the
mom
mom-
loses the hearing in one of her ears.
Yep,
So that's what's going on with them.
yep.
And then obviously with the Trent's newly girlfriend, wife, whatever he wants to call her, she's gone obviously.
She's gone.
So he's obviously like freaking out and stuff.
So we've got the original family of 4, plus the 2.
And then this is kind of where like the Trent and Maddox or whatever, they kind of like team up and they're like, we got to find something here. And
Well,
because this is simultaneously the same time because they're off doing their thing, and then you have Guy and I don't even remember the wife's name, but they're together because this is where the doctor comes over and like he's going crazy in his scene. But then you also have the kids over here with Crystal. There's going on in the same time.
because she tells them to hide, so they hide in the cave.
That's
find
why.
out.
Yeah, okay, yeah, because
the doctor approaches them at the fire. They're having an actually kind of touching scene together where they're kind of, talking about, he's like, hey, I knew about the other guy, but I really think you can do better, and all this and that. And then, she can't hear him, but he can't see what's coming at him. But this guy, he's crawling up. And why he's crawling, I don't know. But it actually made for a kind of like weird looking.
yeah, you're like, what's going on here?
what
Who
is
is
this?
this? Because like we can't, because we're looking through his
Yeah.
sight, so it's like all blurry, and you're like,
Vision's
what
blurry.
the heck is going on? But yeah, the doctor walks up there and he's got his knife back, and he just starts going ham. He's just going at it.
Yeah, and so he's doing that. He's cutting him in the arm, Scream style. One little slit on the arm. It heals instantly. It's nice. It's calm. It's fine.
The Richie, Derek, and Jill stat.
What's that?
I'm screaming, yeah, just a little whip.
Yeah. And then in a nice little moment there, the wife actually puts herself in front of some of the slashes that she takes in the back.
I feel like that's a really good moment too, is like showing that she cares for him.
They care for one another.
Yeah, but then this is kind of where she goes and tells the kids to hide, and then this is when the kids end up finding Crystal kind of just in the back in the dark lurking, and she for some reason I guess she's just self-conscious I guess about her.
Yeah, she is. We don't see her visibly right off the bat, but through her silhouette we can see she is completely hunched over. She has bad posture, which is, something that apparently she did as a child because with her calcium deficiency and everything, she's got some pretty bad scoliosis or something going on because she is not looking good. She's got them glass bones kind of thing.
This scene makes no sense to me.
Yeah.
She just walks and then her bones are like...
Yeah, they keep lighting matches so they can see what they're looking at.
And she keeps freaking out because she doesn't want people to look at her.
She keeps freaking out. She keeps throwing rocks at them. And then eventually she picks up a rock that she just can't grab.
Yeah.
She drops it on her arm, breaks her arm. And it's like down, it's back. Well, she's walking. She falls over. it heals like because of the fast healing behind her, and then it's just this deformed amalgamation of limbs. And eventually, as they start crawling through the caves, more of her bones start breaking, and then she heals backwards and everything. It was really disgusting.
It was gross, but also I thought that scene didn't make any sense.
It didn't make sense, and it doesn't really make sense in the world. If it was a much slower scene, maybe it would. Like if it was like like they were shimmying through something, and that's how she was catching up to them or something.
Yeah.
But like it was something that you didn't actually see all these things until they got out of the cave.
Yeah, then she's just completely deformed, and she's like,
right. Blah, blah, blah. That would be different. But
what?
She basically, turns into a spider.
Just
on her back, legs up.
Yeah,
she basically dies. She just dies.
That's cool. And then this is kind of when the mom ends up getting like a rusty knife.
Yep.
She just straight up just slices the doctor, and then she's just like, "Yo, rust will spread and kill you." And then
and it
he just gets infected, and he just
really quickly
dead.
Yep.
And then that's when we just have the original family left. And at this point in time, what were your thoughts? Did you think the family was going to get out alive? Did you think more were going to die? Did you think all of them were going to die? Like, what was your thoughts at this moment?
I was pretty confident that the parents for sure weren't. But I honestly was thinking it would be super anticlimactic for the children not to, after everything was said and done, and just to be like, everyone just died. That would be boring, especially now that there's no conflict. Like, it would just be waiting for their deaths.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? There's no one trying to kill them. There's nothing like this or that. So everything said and done, I really expected the kids to get out. Especially by this point, showing the age of the parents, I didn't. And pretty quickly that comes true.
Yeah,
Dad pretty much falls over.
Dies.
By the fire, and then the mom...
Doesn't the mom, get up, walk over to, the ocean?
She walks to the ocean and collapses herself.
Mm-hmm. And then we're just left with the two kids.
Yeah. So, I guess, what do you think at this point in the movie?
When there's just two kids, or with all four of them?
Just the situation, with all four, going into this.
I was kind of the same way. I honestly thought that, with the hearing loss and, the sight being all blurry and just,
it was cool that they kind of, were a yin and yang of one another, in a way.
Just with all the stuff that led up to him, with him, starting to look a tiny, like I said, it wasn't as drastic as the kids, but they started to get a little bit more wrinkles and stuff going on.
Yeah.
And with the sight and the hearing being all wacko and out of norm, I thought they were gone. I was like, all right, they're gone. As far as the kids go, I'm like, dude, I would not even be surprised if they just killed everyone off in this movie. At the moment, I'm just like, I would not even be surprised.
Yeah, I hear you.
Then they were kind of just chilling. I think they go to bed or something, because then the morning comes, and then they're like, all right, boys, let's build a sandcastle. That was their first thought. Well, they thought they were going to die, so they were like, well, let's do something fun. So
I thought that was a really nice way
of tying
it back to they're kids.
Yeah. That's awesome. But like I said, with that in mind, though, it kind of contradicts with the whole getting the girl pregnant because they're kids.
Well, I don't know, because in my head...
I know what you're thinking. I know it, yeah.
No, not even that. Just the brain over time has to have enlarged and matured to be a still normal human.
Yeah.
Because...
They would just, yeah.
Well, you have to think, these kids, they talk with higher level thinking, as it were, anyway, because he talks about the dentist with the the x-ray and wearing the thing to cover from radiation, and the metal tube that they could build to kind of wear against the aging effects or whatever. There's higher level thinking there. I think there is a basis that these kids did show more advanced intelligence. Now, whether that's enough to get them to middle school, where I think they would have been okay with what you're thinking.
Well, the thing is, too, is when they did it, they were just like, "Yeah, we were just playing." So I don't. They clearly don't know they don't know what the Big Bang is. So I don't understand. I don't know. I just, that seems so dumb to me. It's so weird.
It is. It definitely is.
But yeah, they go and build the sandcastle, living their last dream, just having fun because they're like, well, we're dead. And then they ended up talking about the kid back on before the island that he used to hang out with.
Yeah.
And how it comes back and ties back in with the translation notes.
Yes.
And at this point, what did you think the translation note was going to say?
Well, I knew as soon as they brought it up that it was like, and especially with the fact that the host had tried so hard to keep him away from the guests that I was like, okay, yeah, for sure he was trying to warn them.
Okay. Now, like with the paper though, did you think it was something like past tense where it's like, "Yo, don't go to the island,"
Yes.
or did you think it was?
I was fully like, okay, that's gonna be the bittersweet twist. Was that if they would have deciphered it beforehand,
Then they
could have been fine.
Yeah.
But it wasn't like, like, hey, don't go to this secret island or the secret coast or whatever. But no, it actually ends up working out in such a way that it is a slightly helpful hint, where
It's like the coral, right?
Dad doesn't like the coral.
Yeah.
And, they kind of deduce the fact that Idlib, may not know exactly what's going on, but he definitely knows that the coral is bad. And there's like an outcropping of coral that you can see from the beach.
Yep.
And that's where they get the idea that they need to get to it. They need to swim there. And
Oh, this is the ending part where I just, But like this is the part where they take that hint and they're like, all right, let's get out to the coral.
Something to think about. Of all the living, coral is living. Like it's a plant. It's a living thing, right?
Stop.
Isn't it?
I mean, maybe. I'm not a biologist.
Marine biologist.
That's what I'm saying.
Hoorah. Anyway, so, I mean, you would have thought that they would have been like, oh, there's no fish around because everything's dying, but maybe there's something to it.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that would have been my first thought, but, after spending a day there, maybe that would have been a thought I had.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, it makes sense because they do eventually just go, hey, you know what? Let's give it a shot. So they end up going over there and, they swim over there and they have to go underwater and go through like which I have no idea how they have the oxygen and the lungs to hold that amount of oxygen through that entire time, especially because the sister gets like trapped on the clothes and it's like, how are you even... What?
And it's at this point that it switches perspective.
Yeah, because we go to the dude with the camera.
We go to M. Night. We go to the director.
Because he's the one who's actually up there recording all our guests on the island and like watching them die and stuff. And
we've been seeing him periodically throughout. Not him, we didn't know for sure, but we've been seeing someone standing on the ridge.
Yeah.
Throughout the movie, and they're like, "Hey, we're being watched" or something. Mm-hmm. And they knew they to some degree knew someone was watching, but now we know that it was the driver, so he was in on it, which implicates the resort as well for sure. Mm-hmm. If we didn't think Dad doesn't like the coral up until this point, and then he calls and says, "Hey, everyone's dead. The test is over."
Yeah,
and well, he picks up his cameras and he heads back to the...
Yeah, he's like, they're dead.
Yeah, he heads back to the facility or something where there's a lot of scientists.
Yeah.
And they're doing some lab trials on different living things.
And it kind of just... It's like a real quick scene. It's not that long, but it kind of just shows that like the owner of the place come in and be like, oh... all these people are dead. Let's give a moment of silence for them. And you're just like...
That was funny. It would have been funny if it was just like he puts his head down and picks it right back up.
Yeah,
that would have been hilarious.
All right. So they're silent for like a solid 5 seconds.
Yeah.
And then after that...
Which in island time, that's like 20 minutes.
Yeah, that's a long time. But here's the thing, though. Like, you end up finding out that they're using people who have diseases and like certain like mental problems or health problems, and they're putting them in this island to see.
They kind of deduce that, which we didn't really talk about it, but they do all stand in a group when everyone is mostly still alive, and they do deduce that is why they were chosen when they were like all the people on the beach.
Yeah,
because they all stand in a circle and they're like, "Oh, well, I've got a tumor. I have seizures." There was another one. I don't remember what it was. But,
yeah.
But yes.
Yeah, it was just, and with all that in mind, it just seems that they pick those type of people, and they make sure to pick those type of people that have problems to put them in the island, because what they're doing is doing research to where they can find a cure for their said disease, so they can, save lives in the real world.
Yes,
is basically what it is. So, I mean, what was the example that they had? It was
the seizures, because they study the long-term effects.
Yeah, and this helps them do that because it's just like.
Yeah, they can do it in a day rather than
wait 50
the
years.
Actual 16, 20 years or whatever.
Mm-hmm. So that's basically the whole purpose of the movie, is just a bunch of scientists using this for testing and trying to get better medicine out there. And with that in mind, is it justified or not? Do you think every like 2 days they put in a whole group in there? Do you think it's justified to kill a group every 2 days?
No,
Or-
absolutely not.
So for science to help people out, you don't like. I'm just curious on what you thought. Do you think in the long run it is? Or
Not unwilling test subjects. No, I mean, if there are people willing to go through this, say someone who has cancer and they're already going to die, and terminal.
hey, if you can fix me, let's try it.
Right. Like, honestly, I think the best case would be the mother, but they even said that at one point her tumor was benign, not malignant.
Yeah.
And that obviously at some point in her life is meant to change because it eventually does start growing. But, I think it's a really good example of what, I don't want to say it would be capitalistic because it's like big pharma, right? It's like pharmaceuticals, like they want to sell their drugs to the highest bidders to, sell. And, I think that's a good example of what capitalism would probably do in some weird phenomenon like that.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So I think that
it's realistic.
Yeah, that's realistic. That's a great premise. And like I said, in broad strokes, I think this movie is such a good job of that and those small moments of tension. But I guess before I go into
It's got good ideas.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think the storyboard probably looks fine. I think it's just the individual moments that kind of drag it down.
Well, after you get with all these research things, then, because you're still kind of in the mindset, did Trent and his sister die? Did Maddox and Trent die? Like, what's going on with that? Because it drags on for a little bit where it just follows the researchers and the owner, because then the owner ends up going back to where, he's introducing another gang coming out of another vehicle, like, hey, welcome to paradise, and like how we were introduced in the beginning of the movie with the family we followed. And then this is when you kind of hear Trent off screen say something, and then he ends up going to the cop that he asked when he was a kid, before they went on the island. He's like, what do you do? He's like, I'm a cop. Obviously they're still there because it's only been a day.
It's only been a day, yeah.
So he comes back and he just gives them the notebook that they
found.
A
notebook, yeah.
And it has a bunch of people's names written on it, that are missing or dead or gone or whatever. So he just gives it to the police guy, and he just starts checking it and then ends up calling the police.
When they are missing people.
Trent and Maddox or whatever end up coming around to where the owner is to introduce these new people, and is like, don't listen to this man.
Don't give anything they take you.
Yeah. So
don't take anything they give you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that's kind of where we left off. We don't see anyone get arrested. We don't see anything like that. It just kind of just shows that hey, they made it out alive. They're basically telling everyone that these dudes are awful. Yeah. And then that's it. Everyone
on the island gets arrested.
Well, you assume.
Well, no, they say it.
I mean, yeah, but you don't see it. That's my point.
Yeah, I mean, I guess. But, as they're flying away on their helicopter at the ending. Says,
the Resident Evil ending.
Yeah, the Resident Evil. Or Jurassic Park. They do that.
True.
Yeah. And that's pretty much the movie.
That's the movie. This one, I feel like
overall a happy ending, right? I mean, for the
two
characters,
I mean, not really happy. They lost their parents and went through a traumatic event, and they lost.
That was 20 years ago.
Yeah, and they lost 20 years of their life.
You're right. They lost a lot more than that.
He lost his kid.
Yeah, I know. That's if you think about it like that, it's just sad. But but yes. So okay, I guess. That being said, final verdicts. We'll start with you this time. I feel like I've kind of been the lead on this one because this was my choice for the movie. It wasn't my choice, but it was my choice for the movie. So, with that being said,
okay. So, this is a very interesting movie. I just want to say right now, right off the rip, I'm not rating it high. Yeah, I'll get into details here. I'm not gonna rate it super, super, super low, but I'm not going to rate it. It's going to be the lowest rating I've given off any of the movies so far.
Yeah, it's not Scream.
I mean, we haven't watched Scream 6 yet, but I guarantee you it's going to be higher than this. Okay. Well, even I put bias aside for the Scream movies.
I know.
Because,
I'm teasing.
I'm just saying, I rated Scream 3 a 7, and though it deserves it, probably even maybe lower, I would have rated it probably an 8, and I would have rated all the other ones 10, if it was bias. So, but here we go. So this movie... starting off the rip, right off the start here, I was like, I have no idea what's going on. We were both blind to this movie. We knew nothing. You saw trailers, right?
For this movie?
Yeah.
The first one, yes.
I see nothing. I had never heard of this movie in my entire life. I just saw the director's name on it, and I was like, all right, we're in for a weird time because
Right.
every movie he makes is wild. So going into this, I'm like, all right, I'm prepared to literally know absolutely nothing that's happening. So we went in, and that's what happened. I had no idea what was going on. My first instinct was the water. That's when I thought about the water turning people old for literally 80% of the movie.
Yep.
That's what I was. That was my full sending with that in mind. And obviously that's not true. But with the characters, like right off the rip, you get introduced with so many characters, so many different like side plots that are happening with all these characters. It was just really all confusing in the beginning. You're like, who's who? What's your name? What's your name? I don't remember. Are you the parent to this kid? Like there was just so much going on. And then obviously we end up getting him to the island. And with the island, this is when things starts picking up, obviously. And I think a lot of like the stuff that happens, like all the wacky stuff, like it's fun. Like I don't think like, you know, kid getting pregnant, like, you know, them blacking out, a guy being named King it's so stupid, but him being Savan, like those moments are great. Like some of them are better than others, and just those moments are fun. They don't really lead anywhere.
Yeah.
Like that's the problem. They don't lead to an overarching point.
Yep.
They're just there for 2 seconds for shock factor, basically, and then they're gone, never mentioned again. Like literally, the kid part, like he freaks out. The son, he loses the son, and Trent freaks out for like 5 seconds, and he's like, yeah, whatever. But I guess with that in mind, it's like, yeah, they're aging faster. So like to him, it was probably like, 10 years in the brain for me. But like technically, it literally was in the same day.
Right.
So I don't know. I feel like things like that threw it off for me.
That's fair.
And a lot of the characters, the way they die is interesting. They're all unique in a way. They're not like the same thing. They all die differently. I think some of them are better than others. Like Crystal's makes no sense to me still to this day. But like I like the ones where they black out, like her climbing up, him going to swim. Like you knew they were going to die probably, but you didn't know what was going to happen.
Right.
Especially with the one who swims, because you're not really, because when he does die, I'm just thinking maybe he turned old, maybe he got older, whatever.
Right.
But it's just he blacked out and drowned. Then I'm like, okay, that's cool. That makes sense. So other characters end up dying, getting ripped off besides the two, and I thought it was generic to keep both of them alive. I think it would have been cool just to have one of them live. And I think if I were to pick one to live, I think the daughter probably should have lived, because I feel like she had more screen time. She was the more responsible one. I feel like he was just like, I'm a simp for my girl, and then
That's fair.
I feel like she was the one that was more prevalent, like being more mature, because even in some of her scenes, she's like, I'm an adult now. I need to,
Right. I mean, you do get more like development with her.
With her, yeah. I feel like she's the only character you actually get an overarching. I mean, the parents you do too,
right? Yeah.
There's isn't to the end, and then the ending. The ending's the biggest thing for me. I feel like it's so weak. Cool. You find out that the researchers are doing this to get medicine and all that, whatever. But then after that, I'm like, okay, where's the real wrap up here? Because you've learned why they're being used and why the subjects are being sent here, but you don't learn like anything else. Why is this island doing this? Like, I know it's just probably supernatural or something, but like, they don't ever really say why, right?
Not completely. The journal mentions again something about the magnetism of the location.
Yeah.
Again, still weird, but that's still unnatural, supernatural, whatever you want to call it. But personally, I'll get into my final verdict when I get there. But I'll push back on that one. I think it's cooler to leave that part
to your mind.
Like to your mind,
yeah.
as long as we still got the company with the pharmaceuticals at the end and how they're using it. I think that's fine, because I think that does a good enough job of understanding what actually happens and why the side effects happened as they were. But yeah, I mean, the only other thing I'll say that I agree with you about completely is the end being rushed.
Yeah. I just feel
I think there should have been more pushback. Like the guy, like when the new people come in and he pushes the drinks down, he's like, hey, don't do that. I think it should have been more like a, hey, why should we trust you? Who are you? Who is this guy?
They just immediately are like, okay.
Let me see
let
me see your ID.
I also don't like how the owner doesn't fight back at all.
Right.
He's just kind of like,
he runs off and says, we need help.
Yeah, we need help. Send security. Like, okay. Like, this man literally did nothing. He just...
Yep.
I do like the wraparound with whatever his name is. The kid. Idlib. Yeah. Yep. I like the tie-in with him. And I also like when Trent and Idlib or whatever meet again when he's older. And then Idlib's just kind of looking at him like...
I know.
Whoa.
Because he shows him the decryption.
I love that scene.
That was pretty good.
There's some good shots in this movie. And I also think that a lot of the shots are overdone. I feel like there are some really good shots, but I feel like a lot of the time I'm sitting there rolling my eyes. I'm like, okay. And honestly, with all that in mind, I feel like I am more negative more than positive to this movie. But I enjoyed it for what it was. So I'm not going to like say it was terrible and I'm like, oh, I wasted my time. Listen, I'll give it a 5.5.
5.5.
I was thinking 5, but I was like, I'll give it 5.5 for some shots and for the kids growing up and seeing their story a little bit. I'll give it 5.5. That's probably one of the lowest scores I'll ever give for a movie because I'm not very super critical with movies. If I'm enjoying it, I'm enjoying it. This movie, I feel like I was rolling my eyes and just being like, what the heck am I watching most of the time? But yeah, go ahead.
From what I can tell, that's about on par with critical reception. 5.5 is about what I saw pretty much all around. I'm not in love with this movie by any means, but I'm going to give the score, and then I will defend the score. I'm going to give this movie a 6.5. Okay. And I think I have a strong reason for that. And so, base level, I was entertained by this movie the whole way through. Whether it be making fun of people's stupid decisions or, learning new characters or things like that, 100%, I think that gets quite a few points in my opinion.
Okay.
When I talk about the suspense of certain shots, that's great, and I love that too. While I do agree with you that at some point certain things are overdone, I think the setup for later moments is done well. Okay. I think though rare but really shoddy use of CGI is glaringly bad.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I really think that the story plot, or like the structure, I guess I would say, of the story of this movie is like an Oreo. You've got the cookie, which is the beginning of the movie before they go to the beach.
Gotcha. Okay? Beginning. And...
Yes. Beginning, the middle, on the beach, and then the end off of the beach again.
Yep.
Okay?
Mm-hmm.
The beginning, the cookie, it's hard to get through. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Not that good. It's a shotgun of characters all at once that you have to learn and kind of realize who they are, what they're for, and some of them aren't even relevant until the end of the movie.
Yep.
Which actually, those are the characters that were fine. But then you get the kind of narrowed down, more tension filled, one by one, each character dying on the beach, and, that intrigue. And while it wasn't perfect on the beach, I think that's definitely the most intriguing part of the movie.
Oh yeah, by far.
And then you get the end, which, as we've both talked about, feels really rushed. And though it's a decent enough end point conclusion, I think the way to get there was really quick, and just it didn't do it for me, and that at the end also felt hard to watch. So,
well, the ending's a really big part of every movie, I feel like, because I feel like if you have a bad start, it's like it's fine because it can pick up.
You can bring it back.
Yeah, you can bring it back, but the ending is something I just feel like you got to try to get right.
Yeah, you can't have a sour taste in your mouth.
Yeah, you wanna hit the end as hard as you can. You want to make that the best part as possible, and just the middle was fine. Like the middle was great, like you were saying, and the certain shot, I just really like going into each character and seeing like what's wrong with them. What is their reasoning why they're here? Because like I said, their reason is because they're all messed up some way.
Right.
So it's like interesting to see how they react to this because they all react differently.
Right.
And that was cool seeing all their reactions and how like with their mental state and their physical like disabilities, like why are they here? How are they going to react to these situations? And then also reacting to the kids getting older and like the scenes like with the mom not realizing it's her kids.
Right.
Those things are great. But the story I don't care for. I'm sorry. I just think the beginning, the startup is and the ending is bad. I don't like the ending.
I agree to both of those. I think for me, though, it's just that, the beginning I didn't know what to expect. The middle, the intrigue was there. And then the end, I just wanted to see how everything I'd seen gets answered, which I do think it does answer. So I will say that about the end. With the incident with like the pharmaceutical testing and stuff like that. I think the motivations are there, but as you said, it doesn't explain what's happening on the beach, which that bothers you more than it bothers me.
Yeah.
I like the unknown personally.
I mean, yeah, I get it. But at the same time, too, it's like, okay, you call the cops on these guys and like they get arrested, so they say. Mm-hmm. And like, okay, cool. But the place is still there. So what? Are you going to contain it? Like, we could have seen like something of like them.
They launch a nuke.
Yeah, like, go ahead. It would have been a more satisfying ending than just being like, all right, it's still out there. Because, like, the way we were talking about, like, okay, if it was a real scenario, the government would just take over and then do stuff there. Yep. So who's to say they don't arrest the people that were doing it or whatever, and then just the government comes in and goes, cool, now we're going to do it. Like...
Yeah, it makes sense to me.
I don't know. I just feel like just leaving that unanswered to me. Like, okay, you arrested them. That's fine. But, like, you did it off screen and, like... We see Trent and them like go off to a helicopter and they're going to see their aunt. That's fine. We could have at least seen them go home and like...
I don't think it was necessary.
Not necessary, but it would have been cool at least, or something extra to like see like the aunt be like, oh my God, you're so grown, or something weird. Right. I don't know. It just... The ending was so short and I'm just like... something like that would have made it a little bit better for me because I just feel like it's so short, rushed, and...
I get that.
That's my opinion.
All right, so there you have it. We have a 5.5 and a 6.5 for M. Night Shyamalan's Old.
I will say, though, he made Visit, right?
Yep.
Visit was a fantastic movie, and I think it's so much better than this movie. And I also want to really, 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 really see his new movie.
I do too. Yes,
that looks really good.
It probably, if that comes to something streaming, because I think it's about to leave theaters. Mm-hmm. If that comes to streaming, we'll probably pick that one up pretty soon.
Yeah, that one looks really fun.
Yeah, look forward to that. So hopefully that'll happen soon. I assume it's probably going to go to HBO as well. So I mean, yeah.
Do we have any ideas on what we're doing next, or are we just gonna see what we're doing?
That's up to you.
Back and forth.
Yeah, we can do it back and forth. So, I picked this movie even though it wasn't my first choice. So
we'll get to Uncharted later.
We'll maybe we do that right after Indiana Jones to see a juxtaposition of one explorer to another. Yeah.
Then I gotta watch the Tomb Raider movies.
Damn, I've never seen them.
Angelina, baby.
I'm down. Anyway, 5.5, 6.5. Let us know your rating if you got to the end of the video.
He rated it higher than Scream 3. Blasphemy!
I didn't fall asleep during this one. I'm just saying. So anyway, thank you so much for watching. This is episode 7 of the Pop Corner podcast.
Yep.
Not sponsored by the chip. But it's pretty good, so, have some of them. At them on Twitter, say, check out this podcast, and thanks. So, yeah, goodbye.
See ya.